I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite
podcast
on the Citadel.
Hey, you are listening to Accidentally Casual, the Nerdiological Gaming Podcast. My name is Minius of Minius GC, and with me is Tucker from Talking About Games. We're here.
Yeah, that's the new channel, or the new channel I'm doing.
I got that right?
Yeah.
It'd be ridiculously embarrassing being that I'm looking at the chat that you have posted right to it. Like, oh, I forgot what it is. It's right there.
And honestly, like, I've just changed the name. Like, it was just like my personal channel, and then I just changed the title to Talking About Games, and YouTube was just fine with that. So I'm just rolling with that. Like, okay,
yeah, they're letting it go. But
yeah.
But anyway, this is basically Act 3 of this podcast. We're gonna do the Accidentally Casual label. We were here under Andromeda Nerds, and they sound very similar. A, because you and I were in both of them. And B, because I kept the intro, because the intro is awesome.
Yeah.
I just can't get rid of that intro.
It is pretty good.
Yeah, and Commander Shepard, quite obviously, would say everything's her favorite podcast, so it's perfect.
So Andromeda Nerds was Act 1, then?
Yes.
Okay, I see. I thought you were meaning, like, Accidentally Casual was Act 1, and then maybe the surprise podcast that we did earlier was the Act 2.
Yeah, we have side acts. In fact, so you and I have recorded 46 podcasts together.
You did the math.
I did. I had to. And to be honest, that's kind of not real, because we had podcasts where, like, this podcast doesn't count.
We've had to have done more than that, because
we definitely have.
Andromeda Nerds go on for a year?
Andromeda Nerds was less than a year, but we had 32 episodes of Andromeda Nerds.
I thought we had more than that. Okay.
We probably did, but every once in a while, let's say someone didn't show up, which is one of the reasons why this podcast died out in the first place. We would do a 0.5 episode, which basically was a real episode, but we didn't count it. So also, there were many of those. Also, just
so much of the stuff blends in at the time of, like, was that a podcast, or was that just like a video we did? Like, what was it?
Yeah, we definitely did more stuff. I also went and looked up we still have an email address, accidentallycasual@gmail.com. And I'm looking at some of our last communications, and it's basically me trying to get you and Seeker to find an audio solution for your stuff.
Yeah.
Because we had maybe 5 Accidentally Casuals that we did not actually get to air because someone's audio crashed. And I believe we have the solution to that problem.
Yes, Craig from Discord.
From Discord, who is recording this. And at some point, I'll try to get his audio in there. And then we're also recording it onto our hard drive, so we have different audio versions going other ways. And also, we don't have to deal with more than people on the West Coast's schedule, so we can record at multiple times. Because that was a big time. Like, for instance, we did the reunion episode last week. And that's kind of what is kicking off us doing this again, because enough people were really into that, and we enjoyed it quite a bit. But it was difficult to get everybody together at the same time. We'd have like an hour and a half window, and we could never hit it. And then when we did hit it, it would crash. So I'm confident we're going to have a number of episodes here.
Yeah, as well as this is part of thing of, like, Andromeda Nerds ending and so on like that, was because that was a very specific podcast, and
that was a very specific podcast, and yeah, we will still chat a whole lot about Mass Effect and Mass Effect type games, but we're gonna branch out all over the place. This is generally a gaming podcast for nerds, so if you're a nerd and a gamer, it's for you. There's quite a few of those people now.
Yeah, it's becoming a lot more acceptable.
Anyway, so I'm gonna start this. This is going to be a lot like, because it's just going to be you and I, although we have open invites out to people who can join whenever they want, but the timing is, of course, an issue. And I think 3 is a really good number for a podcast, and obviously we have 2.
Yeah, like a third open spot for guests.
Yeah, for guests, or we'll find somebody. But for the moment, you and I have a repertoire where you say something ridiculous and then I yell at you for like 15 seconds.
Typically.
And that's how it goes. So this is going to be episode 14. Even though it could be episode of Accidentally Casual, even though it could be, I was originally going to make it be episode 47. And then I realized that that's just ridiculous. It's too ridiculous, even for me.
I mean, do the numbers matter at this point? Because
No.
it's so convoluted.
That's the point, and that's why I think it's funny. And also, we'll say this again: the show Accidentally Casual. This is no accident. We have no choice. It's intentionally casual, and that's part of the joke too.
Yeah.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
But so there's actually something that because talking about Mass Effect, there's something I was thinking about because you know a lot more about the names of the characters in Mass Effect, and I was reading something about TV tropes, which also blend into games just because it's about story writing, called the One Steve Rule, and it is where you focus to make sure that none of the main characters share the same name or that they have similar names. So, like, if you have a Laura, you won't have a Lyra. Or if you have
there is no Laura because there's a Liara, right?
Yeah. And like you wouldn't have, like, for Javik, you wouldn't have Derek or something because that's close of it.
Kind of close, yeah. But there's no Derek, I think.
Are there any names in the or with Mass Effect that would break that One Steve rule?
There are so many Mass Effect characters, man.
Well, I'm meaning of like the main ones.
Probably.
Because I was looking at that and trying to think, like Tali, there's no other name that's similar to Tali.
They're all, and it's a lot easier to do with sci-fi too, because you just make up names and you're like, yep, that's a name, right?
Yeah. No, yeah.
Liara is not a real name.
When you can make up your own language. Well, yeah, I mean, how many? That's also kind of a fun statistic to look at. Whenever big popular games come out and they get a huge community following, like Mass Effect or other games like Halo or Assassin's Creed or other things like that, and characters' names start becoming the names of kids. Like, there are people that name their children Liara or something off of a Mass Effect character that they've loved. And it's like, that's wild. That's awesome. But I mean, yeah.
There are a ridiculous amount of kids named Luke.
Yeah, but that's that's a name.
I guess. I guess. No, that's 100% a real name. I'm just being a dick about it.
But yeah, I mean, Luke probably, I think, came from the Bible, and I mean that.
Yeah, but it's popular again now. I guess you're right. That is a real name. I wonder what the most made up name in there. That's something we can think about.
I mean, technically, aren't all names made up?
Yes. Technically, all names are made up. So your name, by the way, someone just completely made up.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about you listening right now.
Yeah.
Just someone else made it up. So anyway, we're going to talk about a lot of podcasts, but you're restarting a gaming channel. What are you doing with that?
I'm just going to create videos based around like design ideas or like there's a book that I liked when I was in college called 125 Universal Principles of Design. And so I'd create 125 videos, each one based off of a design principle, and be like, this is what the cathedral effect is. And it's about how in puzzles, if you're in a smaller room, that has a different psychological effect than when you put someone in a puzzle in a big room, and show like Portal 2 as an example of that, and kind of explain what those design principles are, as well as just random game design pitches. Like, I'm working on a video right now of what Chucky would look like in Dead by Daylight, because the developers were like, oh, we can't really put this character in because of his height. He's a small character. It's too different from everything else. And I took that as a personal attack, and I was like, I'm going to design this.
You're not that short, though, so it wasn't that personal.
No. But them saying that this is something that we can't design, I'm like, that's a challenge. So I'm coming up with like a design ideas for Chucky, like his perks and all that.
Okay, and why do you care? Because I learned when I worked in radio, someone is always listening for the first time. I'm not entirely sure that's true, but we're going to act like this. Why do you care so much about game design?
Because I've went to college for that, both bachelor's and a master's degree in game design, where I was even valedictorian with that, and then I worked in
you
the
were the
gaming industry.
valedictorian?
Yeah.
What?
I know, right? Actually,
What?
I still have my graduation cap. We were told not to put, oh, hey, you guys aren't allowed to put anything on your graduation cap, which at a entertainment college, that felt kind of interesting. But on my graduation cap, I put, this was a triumph. I'm making a note here, huge success, and then a bunch of other Portal things on there. And I'm like, they're not going to kick me out. I'm the valedictorian. I mean, my last day of class, I went in wearing a onesie, a Deadpool onesie. And I was even, because with my master's degree, I was working with bachelor students. So I was in a bachelor student class, like as a teacher's assistant kind of thing up there, like a producer, master's degree student, teacher assistant thing, whatever the right terminology would be for it. And I was in there in a onesie, just like, yeah, what's up?
I would think that wouldn't be. I'm surprised to hear that rule.
And
it's a creative college, right?
Even,
I mean, it's
yeah, and even better. That was the day I got a call from EA that I got the job. So I stepped out of class in a onesie, and I'm just on the phone with the EA person telling me about the job, like how I got the job, and telling me about the contract. I'm like having a serious conversation, but I'm out there, my hand on my waist, just in a onesie.
So I know you've worked on Madden, which I found hilarious because you could barely name one football player.
Mm-hmm.
But you've also worked on Destiny. What else have you done?
I've also worked on the Master Chief Collection, as well as some other games I can't mention. But I also thought it was kind of funny that I've worked on Madden.
We can't talk about the fact that you're working on Half-Life 3.
Yeah, no, that's a secret.
That would be a secret.
But it's funny that I worked on Madden 19 I've never played any football or anything like that. And then with Destiny 2, although I have Halo memorized, I've never really gotten to Destiny 2 just because it was just an open world MMO RPG kind of style of game, and I've just never been keen on those. So I ended up working on that one too, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's a weird mix of stuff, and we're gonna chat about a lot of this stuff.
I want to note that I've loved that working in the industry, working with EA and everything, and Bungie. That was awesome. That's absolutely incredible. It's just I've never played football, anything, and then I ended up working on a football game.
That really bothered me too, because that was one of my. I'm like, I want to work on a Madden game, and those guys are gonna be so cool. They're gonna love football so much. You just did not care,
dude. A lot more work gets put into that game than what the internet goes on about. They're like, oh, it's just a roster flip or things like that. And it's that is a big part of it, but a lot does get worked on of fine tuning the mechanics. Because what are you going to put in a football game that is meant to be a simulator? You can't fictionalize it much if it's meant to be a simulator. But they just fine tune it, and they do put the effort in there. Holy shit, some of the people there that put in overtime, everything to get that out the door.
Plus, they got to come out with that every year, and it's just going to be real hard to do something new every year, basically. All right, so you're super qualified for this. I'm kind of qualified. I play a lot of video games.
That's honestly enough qualifications. There are people I know, I just spouted off my resume. But then there's some people I've talked to that they just played a video game and they'll come up with a brilliant idea or something like that, and I'll just sit there God damn it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've done creative stuff with writing, and I've also have broadcasting experience. So from a podcast standpoint, I suppose I'm as qualified as anybody doing this. But either way, and we also used to run YouTube channels that went for several years, and then magically disappeared, which some of you are probably mad about still.
Well, yeah.
Sorry about that, I guess. We can get into that. We got into that a little bit last podcast. Boy, things got venomous with Mass Effect Andromeda. They really did.
Yeah.
We will probably break back into that at some point. But right now, the biggest thing that's going on in gaming is that we have a generational jump, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Every 6-7 years, new generation comes out.
It's been about 8 the last couple times. So if you're looking at 2028, the PlayStation 6 and the Xbox Series 2 X1 X0, whatever the fuck they're going to name it.
Honestly, the naming conventions always disappointed me. PlayStation's simple. PS1, PS2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5, like that one's simple. But Xbox, like they got options. They've had things like
they
the
got
Xbox
a lot of
Infinite.
options.
Like they went from Xbox, like everyone called the original Xbox the Xbox One, just because that was what people referred to it.
It was the first
as.
Xbox, right?
Yeah, after
the
360 came
PlayStation.
out.
The PlayStation 1 wasn't called PlayStation 1. It was just the PlayStation.
Well, the original Xbox was just called Xbox.
Yeah,
but
exactly. But it's
after
still
the 360 came out, then people called that the Xbox One.
You could also
the
hear like
One
Xbox 180, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, and then like they come out with the Xbox One series, like the Xbox One S, Xbox One X, and it's like, okay, that's fine, I guess. And then their Xbox Series X, like you're just gonna confuse all the grandmas that are going to Walmart to like try to figure out what is the newest console to get their grandson, and they're not gonna know.
Obviously, you can't get a console right now.
No, there's completely sold out.
But how many kids are going to end up with a Series S instead of a Series X?
Or an Xbox One X and be like, this is a new console. And that's what
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Although I think I've heard that they stopped production on the Xbox One series.
They definitely did. Why are you saying series too? That's even more confusing.
Yeah, because it's the S.
It's accurate, but it's more confusing.
What we call them in the industry, we have like we use the back names for them or whatever the secret code names are that is like kind of all out there now. Like the Xbox One X was called the Scorpio, and
such a cool name.
Yeah, and you may have heard it is called the Project Scorpio. So that's just what we called it internally. And another fun fact, on the Xbox One X, if you open it up, on the motherboard is Master Chief riding a scorpion.
Oh, serious?
Yeah, there's a little etch of Master Chief riding a scorpion on the motherboard of the Xbox One X. Like that's a little Easter egg in it. But
I kind of want to open mine up now, but
the Xbox One was called the Durango, and then the Xbox One S is called the Edmonton. And those were like that instead, because when we were typing up things, like if we're doing bug reports and whatnot, because like I mentioned my resume, but it was QA that I've worked on. Like I haven't been like a big designer in any of that shit. It's QA stuff. But when we're writing that up, it's a lot easier to be like, this bug happened on the Edmonton rather than Xbox One S.
Xbox One S Series 2?
Yeah. And then there's even different names for like the consoles that are in like the Chinese specific consoles have a different name as well, but I can't remember what that one is.
I thought you weren't allowed to game unless it was officially approved in China.
That's why some consoles are like that. They are like government or region locked.
Or they have like Chairman Mao inside the console that approves
like
everything that someone says.
Yeah.
That's not racist. That's cultural.
Yeah.
Just going to point that out.
But so there's different. I don't know what the PlayStation code names are, but I know they have something similar. I just have more experience.
Nintendo's had cool code names too.
Yeah, and not just that, but they've also had some pretty cool developer consoles. That's from people that I've talked to. I've never worked with any dev consoles for Nintendo, but their dev kits are, from what I've heard, they even look kind of cool, or they're just interesting how they are. Nintendo does some weird stuff, from my understanding.
Yeah, they do weird stuff. It's and this is, might label this console wars. The main point of this is that console wars in and of themselves are stupid. You want all of these companies to do well, so there's competition. Yeah,
console wars. I mean, that was the thing with the with the 360, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, like all that stuff. But at this point, with crossplay and like how you can play games with people on PC and on PlayStation with Modern Warfare, you can do crossplay like that. You can do all this stuff. It seems almost just a worthless argument at this point, because all games are essentially being played everywhere, and you can play them with your friends no matter where they are, and all of that.
Yeah, it'd be great at some point to get to the official utopia of everyone can play every game on every console. That's fake and will not happen, but it sounds good.
Well,
and I'd like
I
to see
mean,
it.
you need some competition. Having some competition is healthy. So like having it everything on all of that, I feel just like that's just not going to happen. But yeah,
So-
I mean, some competition is good.
So the original Xbox, we're looking at two specific consoles. Because as far as I understand, you were mostly, if you're talking about a specific console, you're mostly an Xbox gamer.
Yeah, I
And
have a
I'm most-
PlayStation, but that was
and
mainly for exclusives.
Yeah, I've mostly been a PlayStation gamer, although I have an Xbox.
Yeah.
But I normally go PlayStation PC and play my Xbox stuff on PC. But you can look very specifically over the last couple of generations. For instance, but Xbox came out when the PS2 was out, right? And they were parallel.
I think they came out I think they came out around the same time, but I think the PlayStation 2 was still the tip-top console, just all around of everything.
Yeah, PlayStation got so arrogant with that, they came out with the PlayStation 3, which was $600 back then, and they told people to get a second job because they just figured they had everyone in the bag. They actually said that. I remember hearing that. I'm like, what? Get a second job. And so then the Xbox came with the 360, and the 360 whooped its ass right out of the gate.
And then the person with the Xbox One had that idea of like, what about people that live where there's not that well of internet or something? And they're like, they should move.
You can't resell games. And so the exact same thing flipped, right? The next generation with the Xbox One and the PS4, and then the PS4 jumped all over the Xbox One. And the whole point of this is that these companies keep each other in check. You can't be too much of a dick if the other company is going to take everybody. So it's good to have this kind of competition. Very good.
And there's a little bit of a tangent thing, because how you said that Sony had that get a second job to help pay for the PlayStation 3. With the Xbox One, I don't remember specifically who, but it was some spokesperson or some higher up at Xbox talked about how at the Xbox One you had to be online. And they're like, well, what about people that don't have reliable access to internet? And his response was like they should move somewhere or something like that. I live in Seattle, which is, it's a big city. And I live in the city of Seattle, where I moved just because of the building I was in of itself. It had old wires and everything like that. The best internet that we had in 2019 was 10 megabytes per second. And that was, we recently got it changed, and now I got a gigabyte internet speed. But for about the first few months I was living out here in Seattle, I had 10 megabytes per second for internet speed, and it was horrendous.
And you had to move.
Well,
so you took that guy's advice.
But I live this. Well, no, this was in the city. This was
I get it, but you did have to move.
Yeah, no. The building itself got updated. The wires got fixed, and now I got gig internet speed, and it's tip top. I mean, Seattle's still a thing, but the internet's awesome.
Internet is awesome. By the way, I have gamed on a 56K modem. I'm old enough for that.
Yeah, but those games were meant for that. When you're trying to play today's games,
that'd be just
with
a disaster.
I would be playing Siege with my friends, and I would get kicked every 20 minutes or something. I would lose connection, and it'd kick me from the game, and I could immediately reconnect. That wasn't a thing to reconnect right back into the game. But if the game ended, then that would count me as quitting as a penalty, or sometimes that I couldn't load back in because you have one life per round. So that would kill me essentially for that round.
Yeah, you would frustrate the crap out of me.
Or if I couldn't load in time, it was horrendous. It was bad.
I got the internet situation fixed because you didn't have to move either.
Oh yeah, no, it was causing depression. It was awful.
I can perfectly see that.
They honestly, having no internet is better than having dead slow internet, because you remember the good times when you had that and you're watching it slowly go through and you're just feeling that. It's just if you had no internet, if the internet was out, you at least were okay, the internet is out, so you can mentally get in that thing of other things to do or so on like that. But when it's a slow internet, it's just slow. It's just awful. It got so bad some points I couldn't watch Netflix because I couldn't get a reliable streaming speed.
Oh, I'm glad you got that fixed.
Yeah.
Because that would make this podcast impossible.
Yeah.
It really would. But for now, we are solid. How many new consoles do you have, Tucker?
I don't have any of the new consoles, but I have.
How much money are you going to pay for a new console?
No, fuck that. I'm not buying any from any scalpers. I'm not doing that shit.
By the way, this is I have a PlayStation 5 about 2 feet
do?
from me. Yeah.
Yeah, bitch.
It's right. It's huge. And this is the very, very first time I've ever gotten a console on release day.
Did you get it from a scalper, or were you just lucky enough to get it from?
What do you mean lucky enough? I worked my ass off to get it.
Okay.
It's actually quite a great memory because I wanted I want to try this. I want to get in on it. And so I was playing Fall Guys, and with the second screen was hitting refresh or continue on all the busted sites to try to buy a PS5. And after about 4 hours, it worked. But we'd be playing Fall Guys, and then me and my friend were doing this, and if we got through to the next stage of the purchase process, we'd just stop dead and then get kicked out of the competition and then had to come back and did that.
Oh yeah, no,
there's
more important things. You're getting through the checkout. There's more important things right there.
But so we lost maybe 7-8 games because we thought we got through and didn't. But it was just, that was a pretty good memory. So I went there and got it. That although I've got to say, and this is what we're going to talk about now, there's really no point of jumping in and getting one right now. There isn't much of a point at all.
There's one thing I think the PlayStation 5 has this too, but I know the Xbox has it, and it's the biggest reason I want the console right now, and it's the multi-resume of games. You can essentially, with the Xbox Series X, you can have 3 or 4 games running all at the same time and swap between them without having to exit any of them. So if you're waiting in a lobby with your friend and one of them's going out to quickly walk the dog or something like that, a quick 5-minute thing.
Screw around.
Yeah, you could just swap over to Minecraft or whatever that you still have launched, and it doesn't. Ooh, burp! It doesn't end that game that you're in. You're still in that lobby with your friend. You're just waiting for them to come back. And
so I believe the PlayStation 5 does not have that.
Oh, really? I thought it did. I thought it was
but it boots up a game almost immediately.
Well, yeah, but you just wouldn't have to reconnect in the lobby with your friend. If you're in Rocket League or Siege or any of that, you don't have to reconnect in the lobby. You're still in there, and that's something that I just love that because that's just cool. That's just cool.
I imagine they're gonna figure these out. Basically, at the moment their consoles are still a little bit buggy. The more important part is that do you know how many truly next gen games there are right now?
There's none on the Xbox.
I count one between the two consoles total.
One that is only on next generation, not available anywhere else.
So there's a couple, for instance, there's a game Demon Souls, which is a remake of a PS3 game. Is that really a next gen game? And not 100%. Maybe. It's a PS3 game. It looks pretty, but it's a PS3 game.
Maybe. I know that Miles Morales came out on PS4, but it is a sell point of the PS5 because it's better and everything like that. But I know it's on PS4 as well.
Well, the one game I have is actually, it's basically a tech demo for the DualSense controller, is the Astro's Playroom, which it really does feel next generation in the fact that the haptic feedback and adaptive triggers, it feels like you're walking through grass. And that's something that you could get excited about from a standpoint, but that's the only one I can think of. And I've seen articles with people saying that's the only actual next-gen game and will be the only actual next-gen game for a while because there are so many Xbox Ones and PS4s out there that they want to sell this new software on that stuff.
Well, it is a common thing. Remember when the 360 and the next generation was coming on, the Call of Duty Ghosts? Yeah, it was Call of Duty Ghosts and Battlefield 4. Those released both on prior console and...
Most games did, yeah.
Yeah.
Which goes to my point, which is that you don't need a new console right now.
Yeah, and that's typically the argument.
$1,000, yeah.
You can wait. That the new, the day ones are more for the hardcore group, while the general community kind of waits for there to be exclusives and so on like that. There's Halo Infinite was delayed, and There's no other ones like Call of the Sea is another one I'm interested in, but that's not coming out yet.
I think the first PlayStation game that won't be on the PS4 that's a big one would be the next God of War. And that's not even confirmed. That could be on PlayStation 4 too. So you'd be talking about a full year cycle before the
next God of War has been confirmed.
For PlayStation 4?
Oh, I thought you just meant in production or stuff like that.
No, it's going to be a pure PS5 game.
I mean,
I don't think that's confirmed.
It's not confirmed, but I feel like that's a safe bet because if all that has been shown is a title, they haven't shown any gameplay, nothing. That it seems like a safe bet. It's going to be PS5 exclusive.
This sounds like the Mass Effect remaster.
Well, PS5. Well, God of War though is a console seller. That is, they are likely having it only be PlayStation 5. And with it being a console exclusive as well, so the developers are working with a specific engine or one specific engine. They have to worry about it balancing across different consoles. I'm guessing at the next E3 or next thing like that, they're going to show off God of War, the next one, and it's going to be absolutely stunning, beautiful. Like it is going to be like this is pushing the PS5 engine to its limit. Like that's going to be the sell of it.
Yeah, and it's interesting to look at that because the other two big titles that have been announced for both the consoles that you mentioned, Halo Infinite, that's going to Xbox One, right? And that's not even coming out for, I don't know, 9 months? Unless they change their minds.
It's just been delayed. There's been no release date for it. It was going to be a launch title, but now it's been delayed until unknown.
Which is a very, very impressive thing to do, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that takes a lot of
balls.
Not balls, but a lot of
it takes
understanding.
A lot of balls.
Yes, it does take a lot of balls, but like they understand that the game being great is more important than releasing it on time with the console. Like that is a very they are understanding the situation and are making the better choice. That is a difficult choice, but it's the better choice.
And I think that connects to something that we've been talking about for a while. Is probably the number one reason that Mass Effect and BioWare have started to drop back is because they have absolutely had to release games in March, and those games haven't been done yet, and the quality has suffered.
Oh my! I am so. I have internet up right now where I was looking at the Xbox games and stuff, and I have the Halo Infinite splash screen up on the Xbox website that's animated, and I realized there are birds in the background that fly behind Master Chief. None of their wings are moving. They are just straight standing still images of birds just moving across.
I mean, it's just a screen on the internet. That'd be great if that's the way it was. I would love to see a game that was like that.
I mean, it's a GIF. You can see there's things firing off in the background. There's smoke that's moving and stuff like that. The birds are moving, but if you focus on the birds, none of their wings are moving.
This is the kind of insight you're going to get on Accidentally Casual with Tucker. I don't know how many people actually care enough to stare at birds like that.
Well, I mean, I've worked in QA for a while, and that's
that's the kind of thing you look at.
Well, yeah. When you're playing a game 40 hours a week for 8 months or a year on end and everything like that, you start noticing the small details. And man,
I bet I would too. Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing too, when games like Skyrim and stuff like that release and they're buggy, sometimes those bugs are known inside, but when you have a team of people, 10 or 20 people or something like that, that's the QA team working on something, and then you release the game out in the public, and then you have 1 million something people playing the game, they're going to find a lot more bugs just because
there's no way. Those Bethesda games have always been like that.
Yeah,
They're so big that you can't test it without a huge audience.
And that's also part of the thing is it is so big that it just lends itself to bugs. Some bugs that are just almost impossible to fix because to put the work in to fix it would either cost a lot of money push back a lot of development. It's just like there is at a point you got to go. We recognize this bug exists, but we can't really fix it, or it's not a high priority. And there are some bugs, like in Madden 19 and so on, that I know are still in the game that are like a game crashing bug, but it was such a unique, small chance of happening and stuff like that. It's like, well, we don't have the time to do that. It's a small chance bug.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like you'd sometimes get bugs that are one-off. That's like, hey, this game crashed. Like I did something and the game crashed, and then you'll spend the next hour or two trying to repo that bug.
Yeah, and you can't
just
do it.
Doesn't crash. It just doesn't ever happen. But you still write it. You still put in like a bug thing of the game crashed when I did this. It was a one-off, but like you make a note of this happened once, and then send that in. And then typically the producer or a higher up person would just kind of look at it and be like, it's a one-off bug. It's just a low priority. But then when the game comes out and then 3 people hit the bug and 1 person posted it online, because that's all it takes is 1 person in the bug and posting it online for everyone to be like, wow, how could they not have known that this was going to happen? Like, come on, guys, be fair.
No one wants to do that. It's the internet.
Yeah.
So anyway, my point is, I get asked this a lot. You don't need a new console right now. That's my point. There's nothing really coming out for a long time.
But I want a new console. Why
it's fun.
You have a new console and I want a new console? You're like...
I can say you don't need one. I mean, I had so much fun with Astro's Playroom that I was like, man, I'd love people to play this, but you don't need to pay extra money for it. That's really what I'm getting at. So it is great for PS4 games too.
The PS5 can play PS4 games, right? Although
I was playing Ghost of Tsushima cross-platform with my friends who had PS4s, and it works great. Aren't there some games? I know that Xbox has like a smart delivery or something like that. That's like a free upgrade to a
marketing
thing. Yeah.
What's PlayStation doing with that? Like, if you have Spider-Man on the PS4 and you bought it digitally, do you just have it now on the PS5, or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There is an upgraded version of it that you can pay more money for.
Okay, and the upgraded version on the Xbox Series X is free. Well,
I think it is for some games.
The smart delivery.
It's not confirmed for all of them, but yeah, most of them. It depends on the publisher.
God, one of them is Dead by Daylight, which just excites me that I see Dead by Daylight starting to get the.
Yeah, that one has a free upgrade on PS5. Yeah.
Have you played Dead by Daylight?
No, it doesn't seem like my kind of game.
Oh, Dead by Daylight.
Asynchronous multiplayer, right?
It is. It's asynchronous multiplayer with 1 killer, 4 survivors, and the survivors there are 7 generators in the map, and the survivors have to fix 5 of them and then open up doors to escape while the killers kill them. It's like a cat and mouse type of gameplay, but I'm just a sucker for horror, and this game has Freddy Krueger and Leatherface and Michael Myers and all of them in it, and there's also some unique characters like the Huntress or the Hag that are just some creepy people, or the Doctor that's based off of MK Ultra that the US government did. This is all this wild stuff. It is a great game.
I've heard good things about it. It just doesn't seem like my kind of thing.
Yeah, fair. It is free on Xbox horror Game Pass.
How about that?
Although it's a horror game, but as a survivor, you don't get scared as much because it's kind of a third person stuff like that. There are jump moments, like there's time I'm repairing a generator, I look at the door, there's no one there, and I'm looking around the window, and I look back, and suddenly Myers is standing there, and I like nearly shit myself. But for the most part, honestly, the scariest part is playing a killer, because that is the survivors play in third-person mode, which would allow them to hide and run away from the killers easier, while the killers play in first-person mode, because they are hunting. And so, there are times where you're in first-person mode, and suddenly a survivor pops up from, around the corner and throws a pallet down on you and stuns you, and you fucking drop your controller, and you're the killer. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ!
All right, well, I mean, if that's your thing,
I don't know. It's just fun.
You've been playing a lot of that, I think.
Yeah, it's also kind of cathartic too when you just have a bad day and you're like, I'm gonna chase that Steve down and put him on a meat hook.
Well, that is a great personality trait. Oh That's how you get excited for.
I
So
love
that's what you've been.
Well, yeah,
See.
it's on Game Pass too. That's how I got introduced to it. It's free on Game Pass.
We talked about this before, and I don't understand how they make money off Game Pass.
That was
It
the
seems
tangent
like
I was
too
trying
good
to
of a
build up
deal.
on.
Like it just seems like too good a deal.
It does, and because literally it is $15 a month, and you get access to 200 something games for free, or not free. It's the $15 thing. Like you have access to all of these, and there's no limit to how many you can download. Games that are Microsoft IP day one are free on there. So like Halo,
Which is
but
mind-boggling
Halo
to me.
Infinite will be free day one on it. Just there you go. Gears 5 was free on it day one. And it's like that's a $60 game on as part of a $15 subscription service. And
So basically, if you were to spend $15 a month for a year, that'd be 3 brand new games for the full year.
Yeah.
But you're getting all that stuff in addition to it.
Yeah. And there's something I was thinking about it is say like you were interested in Halo Infinite and you're just buying with Game Pass. So they're losing out the one-time sale of $60. But if you play that game essentially for more than a few months, then you're kind of paying more for it in that sense because you're putting down a continuous payment, but that continuous payment is giving you access to all of these games.
So what must happen if they make money? And you seem pretty convinced that they're making tons of money from it, right?
They have said, Microsoft themselves has said that Game Pass is extremely profitable for them. It's so profitable for them that it seems like they're getting rid of Xbox Gold and are just attaching that to Game Pass. Or it's like part of this.
I know the PlayStation executive specifically said, there's no way you can make money on this.
Well, yeah, and Microsoft also does have that kind special thing of their Microsoft. Sony
you can
is
throw
in the red on everything except their gaming branch. Their gaming division is the only profitable section for Sony, I think. While Microsoft has a lot of
most of them are probably pretty
venues.
Close to breaking even, but yeah. Microsoft has, for instance, $7 billion they can throw at someone.
Yeah, so it does help.
By Bethesda.
It does help when you got the money. But it's just like Netflix and things like that you wonder how are you making money when you're selling these brand new games like Cyberpunk 2077? I think that's going to go on Game Pass, I think.
Not right away though, right?
I don't know. Maybe.
That'd be nuts. They'd have to pay CG Projekt Red a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, I might be wrong on that one.
I would not be surprised if it comes eventually.
Yeah, it'd probably be in there eventually, but it's just like there are so many that it's you're paying after in a longer stance of it. So if like the Master Chief Collection, I never bought that. I've just had it on Game Pass. But I've played it for so long that I've essentially paid more than $60 for it. But I've also gotten so much spent out of it that it's like I've spent less than $1 per hour or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I know, for instance, if I were to be just doing Game Pass as opposed to buying a bunch of games, that I would save a ton of money because I buy quite a few games.
Yeah.
But so they would be losing money off me, but they must have a number of people that just play 1 or 2 games a year that they make money off of. That's the only way that makes sense. And there's a lot more of those people than there are people like me.
And it's also nuts because Game Pass just added EA access to it too. So if you have Game Pass, you now have, or Game Pass Ultimate, you now have access to EA Access, which is 90 games that are the EA games, like the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. You now have just access to. You can download it if you want now. Unravel, which is a game I highly recommend. The Mass Effect games are on there. I think some of the Dragon Age are as well. Titanfall 2 is on there, which is a highly underrated game.
Highly underrated game.
The campaign was phenomenal.
That was one that one still hurts my feelings that they released that. I think it was right in between Battlefield and or was it Battlefield
Yep.
and
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty within a couple weeks of each other?
Well, it was Call of Duty, Titanfall 2, Battlefield.
And it just completely broke the sales for Titanfall 2. Completely broke them.
That campaign was so good.
It was so good.
The missions are so uniquely done. But EA Access is now on Game Pass, and you have access to that. And they also sometimes have things like this month, you have a free month of Disney Plus. If you're an Ultimate subscriber, like you can like attach that.
Disney Plus is kind of throwing that around everywhere.
Oh, well, I'm just mean like these are just extra things
it's still, yeah.
Like, that's awesome. That's so cool. And
I don't, like I said, I don't understand how they make money. It's too much. It's too much stuff.
This is also going to hurt you. I don't know if you knew this, but if you just have gold and you don't have Game Pass, you can spend $1 and it would essentially just add Game Pass to the rest of your gold. Like that was a deal that they had at one point. So what I did was I just bought like an extra year or something of gold. So my account had like a year and a half of gold, and then I spent $1 to upgrade that year and a half to Game Pass.
So you still got it for the whole?
Yeah, for the whole year and a half.
That sounds like a mistake.
Well, it was like a deal that they had on there. But and Game Pass has all like while it has all these big games on it, it also has some of those indie games on there too that really like games that I've never would have tried otherwise, like Tacoma or What Remains of Edith Finch or other ones like that I've heard good things of, but I wouldn't have spent $20 on a 2 or 3 hour long game. But they're on Game Pass, and so I sat and I played them, and holy crap, those are phenomenal. Tacoma is a game where if you're on a spaceship where you're trying to figure out what happened to the crew, and you go to each section of this spaceship where essentially a 5-minute conversation plays out with all 6 of the crew members, and you walk around the room and you watch the scenes like play in forward motion, then you reverse as you follow one character that's talking and so on, and they'll walk into a room where a person's exercising and you kind of start picking up on their conversation. Then those two interact and that scene is done, and then you'll rewind and see what the person that was in the gym to begin with, what their conversation was. Like, it was really, really cool, incredibly fascinating. And it's just a fun story. And then What Remains of Edith Finch has you walking through this really elaborate house as you're learning the story of the Finch family that has this curse on them where they all have died, and you play the deaths of the characters and they're all different, uniquely done. It's just phenomenal games, absolutely incredible games that are on Game Pass, just free to download, and they're a few hours long, and you play them once and you're done, and it's a great story.
And What Remains of Edith Finch was done by Giant Sparrow, who did The Unfinished Swan, which I really liked.
And there's just a bunch of games like that on Game Pass that you just never would have heard of or never would have tried, and they're free for you right there. It's
unfortunately, yeah. If you got a PC, you can get this too.
Yeah, and that's another thing too.
Which is
you don't have to pay
reason
anything extra for that.
Yeah, which is the reason why I have a PlayStation instead of an Xbox in front of me, or one of them, because I can still take advantage of that without actually needing to buy the new system. You can too.
Yeah, it's just like that. You have it on Xbox, you have it on PC, and it doesn't cost anything extra. You just download it on. You just download the Microsoft Xbox whatever app thing on your PC, and there you go. You have access to Game Pass there. And
I still maintain that I can't imagine how they're making money on this. It's got to go up. The price has to go up. Doesn't make sense to me.
I don't think they've discussed how it's made money, but they have talked about how that this is a profitable thing for them.
Has it generated money or has it generated profit? Because those are different things.
Go on.
Well, I mean, like for instance, if we'll use a real simple example. Let's say you're selling lemonade and it cost you $1 to make a cup of lemonade, and you sell it for 90 cents, but sell 8 million glasses. you're generating almost $8 million, but you're losing money. So if it costs you more to operate the whole thing, like you're not just getting these games randomly for free. I mean, we talk about the specific stuff like their first person stuff or first party games. They're not making the money from selling those anymore, but they still have to produce it at a whole thing. And if you're getting third party games, you have to pay those developers or publishers in order to give their game away. And that's going to cost money.
I'm seeing some articles here. It's like Xbox Game Pass is not a big money maker right now, but Microsoft is thinking long term. And like one of the quotes, because it's like, oh, are you guys worried about losing money or stuff like that? And Greenberg says, we always laugh. Please don't worry about us. When people are expressing that we're going to lose money, Microsoft is going to be all right. We're going to make it. It's going to be okay. That's so wholesome.
I assume that's more of it. It's wholesome, but I think the real idea is to try to force other people out of the market. So it's less wholesome than it sounds.
Well, to me, Game Pass just seems like a big community thing. Like it gets people onto Microsoft like that.
Yeah, and it forces Sony to continue making ridiculously good first-party games.
Well, that's part of the competition thing. Although there's the thing of like Xbox and Sony, like Xbox reaches their hand out a lot of times to Sony. And from my understanding, it seems like it's kind of Sony that's the one that's holding back some of the crossplay. And
I'm sure they
things
are
like that.
They're trying to hold up. They've been forced to do a lot of new things. We'll see.
Nintendo's even been doing it. Nintendo's been doing some of that crossplay stuff. I mean, fuck, Steve is coming to Super Smash Brothers. Minecraft Steve.
Sony has been doing more of that recently. But again, I haven't looked into that. So this is something to keep an eye on, whether or not they increase the... my assumption is that Xbox Game Pass is designed to try to squeeze other competitors out of the market because it's such a good deal. And then Microsoft can absorb those losses. That from the business
how is
standpoint,
it getting
that's
rid
what
of
I'm thinking.
Competitors when it's bringing in like indie developers? It's allowing like indie games to be put on there. And
from the standpoint of, if you have money to buy one console, which one are you going to buy?
Yeah. And it's also because Microsoft is in the PC department, which everyone has. That's one of the biggest hitches on Sony is if it was just Xbox, Microsoft would be a bit more difficult then. But Microsoft also has access to PC.
The other thing, and the other move that kind of looks like that, is the fact that you'd spend Disney money on a publishing branch. Basically, I mean, I know they have a bunch of developers, basically acquire some major IPs for $7 billion. And I'm talking about Bethesda, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom. What else am I thinking of?
Microsoft being awesome. They said that they're not going, like, they're still going to release those games on PlayStation.
No, they're being coy about that. I do not believe that's going to happen.
You think that they're going to pull an exclusive card on that?
Why else would you do that?
Well, there's a game coming out called Avowed, which is going to be Xbox exclusive, and that one, like, it seems like they have things like that, but for a bigger one like Bethesda, because they've allowed Minecraft, like when they bought Minecraft, people had the same concern. And Microsoft's been like, not only have they been no, that's still on PlayStation, but they get the same updates that Xbox and such do as well, I think.
I thought it was a little bit later.
I think a little bit later than PC, but I thought that the consoles are kept up to date. Maybe.
That I don't play Minecraft, so I can't confirm that. But again, that doesn't make any sense to me that they wouldn't do that. I don't necessarily care. I mainly game with two different platforms, and depending on the type of game, that's the type of platform I play on it. PlayStation, because that's where my old gamer friends are, and then PC, which I play first-person games on, and turn-based RPGs and stuff on PC. I prefer that, and then it gives me access to most of Xbox's library if there's an exclusive there, and they haven't had very many exclusives. But
Age of Empires is on Game Pass.
But they've done a tremendous job of buying up a whole bunch of developers, and there are going to be some great potential exclusives. I still think they're going to be exclusive.
Yeah. What are some of the companies that Microsoft's bought up?
Ninja Theory. They did That's the team that. What's the game?
Here we go.
They-
343, because there's
that's been that was a while ago, right?
Rare. Ninja Theory.
Yes.
Double Fine.
Double Fine. They bought Double. I forgot they bought Double Fine.
Undead Labs, which I'm a fan of State of Decay. I'm looking forward. I am excited for State of Decay 3 because in their trailer they have a zombie deer, and that in of itself just got me super excited.
What?
Because
for a zombie deer?
Yes. Because whenever there's zombie stuff, it's always humans. Sometimes it'll be dogs, but for the most part, they keep it humans and so on. And in this one, it had this like girl or woman. She was sitting by a fire, and a wolf was like hunting her or something, and she scared it off. And then later on, she sees blood, and she looks, and she sees a deer is eating the wolf. And the deer looks up, and half the deer's face is gone, or something like that. It says zombie deer, and it just the zombie deer screams at the woman. And I saw that, and I'm like, I want that.
I've been over zombies for a very, very long time. I'm just tired of them.
That's what excites me, because they've like zombie deers and all this different that seems like it's a more realistic thing of if a zombie infection happened, all this shit would go down. And State of Decay itself is a great zombie game because it's just pure survival. You just go from house to house trying to find supplies and food and weapons, and it's just survive. If your character dies, they're dead. They're gone. They don't come back. In fact, if you want to get their shit, you have to be another person in your group, go there and get that stuff. But all of their stats, everything, gone. And I love it.
I like games like that quite a bit.
Oh, it's so good. State of Decay 2, great game. State of Decay 3, I'm so excited with the zombie deer.
So anyway, Microsoft, by the way, has done everything right over the last 3 to 4 years. And they're going to put a lot of pressure on everybody else to change things.
And the fact that the Series X is slightly more powerful than the PlayStation 5.
I don't know if anyone's going to notice, but they might.
I mean, right now they're not really going to notice, and
they might notice towards the end of the. Although you keep in mind though, they're almost certainly going to do the same thing they did last console cycle. Is there'll be like a 0.5 version. The console. There was the PS5 Pro and the Xbox One X, and you're going to get that again. So this is
absolutely
this is a 4-year thing, I think.
And not just that, but also both of the consoles are so powerful that you're not going to notice much of a power difference. It really depends on the games and the developers themselves utilizing that power.
Yeah, and the one thing that Sony has done really well is their first-person developers, I keep on saying first-person, first-party developers really take advantage of their consoles well.
Yeah,
and you look at like God of War and The Last of Us Part 2, they look amazing. They look better in PC games.
And
like,
well, part of that is because they're developing specifically for the PlayStation engine, that they know what they have and they know how to utilize every bit of it, while Xbox also releases on PC or multi-platform games like Call of Duty Cold War. Like the multi-platform games will never look as good as single platform games because they have to be spread across multiple different engines, make sure that they work and all that stuff.
Yeah, it takes a whole bunch of. In fact, Sony finally put one of their major first-party games on PC with Horizon Zero Dawn, and that had some issues.
Yeah. Oh,
and it took them a while.
Did it have?
Yeah. No. I mean, they had never done that before.
I mean, the Master Chief Collection is finally on PC in its entirety. They released Halo 4 a few days ago. They released it in chronological order. So, like, Halo Reach came out, and then a few months later, Halo 1, a few months later, Halo 2, 3, and then ODST, and then 4. And with 4 coming out, now the entirety of the Master Chief Collection is on PC for the first time. Like, people have been wanting Halo 3 on PC since 2007, and they finally got it. I
didn't realize it took that long.
Oh,
yeah, that makes sense. But
Halo on PC was only Halo 1 and Halo 2, up until like Halo Wars and stuff like that. But that's an RTS.
If you're new to the podcast, Tucker does like Halo quite a bit.
It is fun. It's a good game. Recommend it. But something that's just absolutely incredible with these new consoles too, they are powerful, but like, I mean, comparatively to the power that they have, they're cheap.
They really are. I don't think they're making money off these.
Like, well, consoles in general are sold at a loss.
Yeah,
my
so they
understanding.
can, and then each company that owns the console takes a cut off of every game sold.
Yeah, and that's how
onto
they
that
make their
console, and
profit with it.
that's where the money comes from.
But like, I have a PC that is more expensive than the Xbox Series X, but the Series X blows it out of the water in terms.
Does it actually blow it out of the water?
Absolutely. The PC I have is a few years old. It's good enough to run VR and things like that, but you know, it's the Xbox Series X is still more powerful than it.
Yeah, I'm quite certain that my PlayStation 5 is more powerful than my PC that I bought for like $2,000 or
Yeah,
with all the parts and stuff.
That's nuts.
4 years ago.
That's nuts.
Which and I'm gonna have to upgrade that eventually, but just the concept is not super pleasant.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Those new graphics cards that just came out, those in and of themselves are more expensive than new consoles. Just the top of the yeah.
Oof.
But they're more powerful. I mean, they enable you to get something more powerful.
Yeah,
but that's just one component of a personal computer.
And that's also like a brand. I mean, the stuff inside the newer consoles is like not old. But I don't think it's the newest.
It's brand new stuff. Like I know for specifically is mostly custom stuff, and I know the memory specifically for PlayStation is just coming out. Yeah, so the RTX 3080, which is the flatline price for the top of the line graphics card, lists at $700. The lower tier lists at $500. The upper tier one is $1,500, and it doesn't matter. You can't buy any of those anyway. It's the same issue. And that's just the graphics card, not including the memory or the hard drive or the CPU. Yeah, it's a fantastic deal to buy a console.
It's also just nuts how expensive that is. Jesus Christ.
I know there are people who really like PC gaming, and I like PC gaming too, but from the standpoint of, let's say you have $2,000, or maybe you have $3,000 to spend games on over a long stretch of time. You buy a console, you have that much more money to spend on games or Game Pass or something, as opposed to spending it all on a very expensive PC. That's why console gaming is not going to go away.
It does feel like I have spent less on gaming, like with this current generation, than I have on past generations. But I've gotten more out of the gaming this time, just because of things like Game Pass and so on. That I feel like I've just gotten so much more money wise out of gaming this generation than I did past generations.
All right, let's answer the question. I get asked this all the time. Which console do you buy? Because we basically spent this whole time talking about how great Xbox is.
I was going to say, haven't we just gone over that? Like, I mainly have Xbox. I have an original Xbox, but I didn't buy that. I found that when I lived in Florida. It was just like...
You found it?
Yeah, it was just outside.
And it worked?
Oh, I don't know if it works or anything.
Oh, you just have a hunk of junk?
I don't know. I was walking.
You have that still?
So I was walking home from school in Florida, and this was at like 1 a.m. I was getting out of like one of my classes and stuff and coming home, and by just sitting on the sidewalk, just outside my apartment area, it like wasn't outside in the apartment complexes, but it was just on the sidewalk out in the area. It was just an Xbox sitting there. I was like, that's weird. And I walked inside, got my dog and stuff, like 20 minutes later, and came out and was walking, and the Xbox is still there. I'm like, okay. Just picked up the Xbox, and I was like, I'll see if this works. And I just, been 2 years, and I still haven't checked if it works.
Okay. It probably doesn't.
Yeah, probably not.
Outside.
I got a 360 also that's held together with duct tape, but it's R2-D2 themed, so I can't sell it.
That reminds me of my old Nintendo platforms, which I tried to fix as like a 10-year-old. Didn't know what I was doing. Kind of got it to work.
I had to fix my 360 because of a 10-year-old. They wanted to put Lego pieces inside the disk drive of the 360, and I'm like, why?
Dude, my friend's kids took his PlayStation 4 and filled up the disk drive with pennies.
Why? Like,
But they're like 2 and 3. What do they know?
I know, but like, what lot? Like,
I don't know. They're 2 and 3.
But I can't get rid of that Xbox. But it's cool. Like when you turn it on, it sounds like R2-D2. And when you open up the disc tray, there's a little note that says, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope."
That might get to me eventually.
It's cool. I mean, it doesn't say that, and I haven't turned it on in like a year. But when you turn it on, it's like like little R2 noises, and they make me smile every time. Because I take pride in the small things. But I got that, and then just a normal Xbox One X and a PlayStation 4.
So to make the place for
Stadia,
to make
if you want to count that,
I guess so.
Because I
to make the case for PlayStation, as we talked about, and I've even admitted I'm not really a PlayStation fanboy. I don't understand the fanboys of console or companies specifically. They don't care about you. So they don't. They want to make money. So like when you see people online defending them to the death, you're like, what's wrong with you, dude? You're a fucking sucker. Anyway, but to look at from a standpoint of why you would get a PlayStation, they make the best third-person narrative games at the moment, exclusive stuff.
Like Spider-Man, God of War, Horizon.
And there was just basically no way I could miss out on those, which is why I got the PlayStation first. And I probably will eventually get an Xbox at some point if there's stuff not coming to PC. But how I describe
I think
it,
more is coming to PC. It feels like they really are bridging that gap.
Yeah, which allows me. I mean, from that standpoint, we'll see how many PlayStation comes in there. But you can have a PlayStation and a PC and play almost everything, but you can't have a PC and an Xbox and play almost everything because Sony doesn't want you to do that. Like I said, they want to make money. They don't care about you, and I'm fully aware of that. But from that standpoint, those games, if they continue to be excellent, there's still decent value in that. And I imagine with everything that Xbox is doing, they're going to force Sony to be more consumer friendly, which is the whole point of why it's not fun to pick a side in a console war. You want them both to do well, so they force you as a consumer to have the best possible deals.
Yeah, and it does feel like the console wars is kind of done. Like
it's not. Just go online. Everyone yells at each other. I mean, we've been part of that.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you're not looking at it because it's kind of disgusting.
Oh no, trust me, I've gone into other things besides console wars. But
all right, well that's great. I always figure that the people arguing about consoles have other shit going on in their lives that they don't want to confront. So they put all their anger into console where it does not matter at all in the scheme of things.
No, I found other topics besides video games to argue about online.
You can argue about every topic online.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, pizza is one of my favorite arguments. Where people argue between deep dish Chicago style pizza and thin crust New York style pizza, and they get pissed.
I can't do deep dish.
But I don't understand why you're pissed about it. Just enjoy the kind of pizza you like and have a secondary option.
But deep dish is like a soup of pizza.
It depends on who's making it. It's way more difficult to make. At some point, you'll get some good deep dish pizza, but I still prefer the New York style, but I'm not going to argue about that. To answer the question that I asked about which console to get, there's a very simple qualifier. Do you like first-person games or do you like third-person games? And that can make up your mind for you, because if you want the best first-person games, Microsoft is killing it. If you want the best third-person games, Sony is killing it at the moment.
I feel like there's a bit more than that, because while
there's absolutely more than that.
The biggest sell point for Sony is absolutely their first party games. I think one of the biggest selling points for Xbox is Game Pass.
It could be now, yeah.
Because literally it's $15 a month and you have access to every single Microsoft IP as well, which isn't just first person shooters. There are third person stuff and RTSs and simulators.
Well, that stuff's not the highest quality compared to PlayStation stuff. That's just because PlayStation spent the last 15 years specifically attacking that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Microsoft Flight Simulator is pretty detailed, but
It's also on PC. Yeah.
I don't think it's on Xbox. I think it's only
It's
on.
not on
I think
Xbox,
it's only
right?
on
Yeah.
PC.
So that's if we're talking specifically about consoles, then that's where this goes there. I think at the moment though, the better value would be Xbox, but
Does PS5 hasn't talked about anything about VR? Have they?
They're working on a next generation VR for it, and you can hook up your PlayStation VR to it.
Because that's going to be dope. And I have
PlayStation VR was pretty solid, but the controls were garbage.
Well, yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to the next generation of it.
I love VR. Like I'll play Beat Saber and stuff like that. That's fun, and Half-Life Alyx and all those. But Microsoft hasn't said much about VR. At least they have.
Yeah, I think they're content with the other parties doing it. So I don't know. The other thing that Sony has going for it is the new controller is fucking bitching.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
With the haptic feedback and stuff. If it gets taken advantage of, that's great. And also the cool thing about that, let's say if you don't want to buy one, I think the modding community on PC is going to have a fucking field day with the haptic feedback and the adapt. There's going to be some really, really cool stuff with that. And I eventually think Microsoft's going to copy it because it's just too cool.
Yeah, I mean,
at the moment it's not supported well, but it will be.
The new controller for Xbox Series X is essentially the same controller.
Almost the exact same thing, right?
I mean, to be fair, the Xbox controller...
People don't want that to change.
It's a solid controller.
Yeah, I don't...
And that's one of those things of like, there's nothing to really fix.
It would be adding the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers in the exact same mold, which is what they could do.
Yeah.
Because the adaptive triggers are interesting. It basically adds resistance to each time you pull a trigger, which is great for RPG stuff, not as good for multiplayer stuff. I mean, if you're playing for like 5 hours,
the more difficult you really have to press the trigger.
You really have, like if you're fighting some other dude in multiplayer and he can just slap the trigger and you have to like really grip it after about 3 hours of playing, you're screwed. But in single player RPG style, it's fantastic. I recommend at some point, let's say the pandemic ends eventually.
I like that it's theoretical.
Yeah, let's say it ends eventually. 2023, go out and play Astro's Playroom at a demo station somewhere. It's the first time it adds an additional sense. Video games have always been audio and visual, and this adds touch. And that's as far as I really want it to go. I don't want taste.
Want them to add taste?
Don't want them to add taste. I don't want them to add smell. That could go so wrong. So wrong. But so I went to a ride, the Mass Effect ride locally here in the thing, and there is a smell portion to it. And that is no fun. It basically spits shit in your face.
Oh, it's like the Bug's Life thing.
I guess so, but it smells bad, and you're like, oh God. I don't even know if that ride's still there. Me and my buddy got spit on in the face by Arachni, and obviously it wasn't Venom, but yeah. But I'm all in favor of adding the third dimension. It's great for immersion. You can do some other stuff with it. There's some cool creativity going. So that's the other thing that Sony might have going for them.
Well, a great thing to know is that games have added the third dimension for quite a while. I don't think that's what you exactly meant when you said add the third dimension to gaming.
I guess it's a dimension in a metaphorical sense. It's really a sense, right?
Yes.
I say dimension. So the proper way to say that is the third sense out of 5. And eventually they'll do brain implants and stuff, and you'll piss your pants. It'd be great.
I mean, have you heard of Elon Musk's those brain implant things? I don't want a brain implant. Man, that was cool. They brought out this sheep that they're like, here's a normal sheep, and there's like showed its brain waves, things like, everything's normal. And here's a sheep that had its this wire thing that they put into it that would essentially allow them to like research your brain or like get more specifics of it. And they're like, this sheep is perfectly fine. They put the chip in its brain, took it out, and showed no effects to it. And then they brought out a sheep that currently had the thing in its brain, and they were showing on a screen of like when the sheep went to sniff things, like different spikes in what parts of the brains were activated, and all of this.
Eventually, that shit's coming.
And it was like
I'm glad you're so excited.
Talking about things of how this could help figure out like if you're about to have a medical issue that your brain could recognize before you yourself do, as well as like if you go to a doctor, you might not know that something is wrong just because you might not know that something is wrong, but your brain would. And it was like all this kind of shit. And then he also said that he would be able to do Spotify with it, or he said something about having music on it too. And I'm like,
there's all kinds of things you can do that. Yeah, no, it's you're gonna play Cyberpunk in a couple weeks, and that's what that is.
Oh,
It's just like that. Anyway, we've been going for about an hour. I want to get to some of the other stuff before we log off on our first accidentally casual, but episode number 14.
yes.
I hope it's episode 14. I might find out that I miscounted. I'm not a great counter. Now that you can do stuff on a calculator and stuff. Anyway, one thing we want to do, if you want to reach us at accidentallycasual@gmail.com, you can send us show ideas or topic ideas. I want to get your Mass Effect game pitches. There's a new Mass Effect game coming out. What kind of game do you want to see? So email us at accidentallycasual@gmail.com. I'll also put something out on our Twitter. And we'll get some ideas. Try to keep it to 250 words if you can. I won't be stringent about that. But if you write me a 5-paragraph thing, there's a chance I'm not going to read it because it's very long.
It'll be fun to see some game design ideas.
Yeah, and then we can go into some of the best ones. All right. Also, each week we're going to have a Mass Effect character of the week. Always have a little quirk in this. Obscure Mass Effect characters. This week's character and the starting character of the segment is Conrad Werner, because it has to be.
Yes.
One of my favorite minor characters in all video games.
Who's the big fan of Commander Shepard?
Big fan of Commander Shepard. Real awkward. We'll see if I add some clip stuff. I got a lot of editing work to do on this to try to figure out how we're going to do it. But Conrad Werner, one of my favorite characters. Also inspired a character in Anthem. I think it's Neeson Giles. Who is just like him. But Conrad Werner, all 3 games, real highlight of the Mass Effect universe. Congratulations, Conrad. Someone actually cares about you.
Yes. But, I mean, was he supposed to represent was he supposed to represent, like, people who are just major fans of, like, BioWare or anything like that? Because sometimes they'll...
I don't know. I don't think so.
Do something of that.
There is a string of conversations in Mass Effect 2 where he talks about all the weird stuff he does. And it's basically what you do in Mass Effect 2. You like break open stuff and go rummaging for credits and say weird things. It's quite amusing. So there is a joke there.
I'm reading some trivia about Conrad Werner, and there's one that says, it is implied that Conrad's wife is glad to be rid of him since she paid for his shuttle fare off-world.
Yeah, that's what he says.
The sorry bartender can be seen in the background shaking her
head. I might add some Conrad Werner stuff to the end of this. We're going to try to have it on audio stuff too, but I'm not 100% sure he has a wife. I think that woman might be fake.
The wife was non-existent.
Oh, does he actually reveal the wife was non-existent?
Well, he later reveals the wife, in quotation marks, the wife is a
just some poor
entity.
Is non-existent. I don't remember that. I don't know if that's true. I follow Conrad Werner pretty regularly. I just assumed that it was some poor woman that he was stalking that eventually paid for him to go away.
In Mass Effect 3 Citadel, during the firefight between Shepard and the clone, Shepard may yell, Conrad Werner is better at being me than you are. Oh, that's good.
Conrad Werner, great character. If you have a character you want to nominate, I got a bunch in mind, but we'll go around.
In Mass Effect Andromeda, Conrad has a sister, Cassandra.
That one I know.
She could be found in the club at the Kadara slums.
I was so excited that I texted all of you and you guys got mad at me because I spoiled the game.
Theme park attraction, Mass Effect New Earth is
hosted by Conrad. Yeah, live action Conrad Werner. Yeah. Yeah, that when I first said, like, I'm Conrad Werner, I'm like, no way. I might have been the only person in the audience to get it, too, because they were all media members. I was like, oh, that's so dope.
That's awesome.
Conrad Werner, congratulations. Yeah. All right, so we're going to wrap it up for the week. We're going to try to be a weekly podcast. We're going to talk about games. We're going to be nerdy, that kind of stuff, and we might yell at each other a little bit. Yeah. If you want to reach us, we're at accidentallycasual@gmail.com. My Twitter is @MiniusGC. Tucker is @AppyTucker.
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually try to put this stuff into the video description. I'm looking to get this thing on iTunes. It's going to depend on the prices and stuff, but I want to have actual audio versions that people can get to, because it's not super convenient when you're on the go, even though you're not allowed to go anywhere right now, to have the thing on your phone.
It's just reaching out to more audiences, or just more ways to get to it.
I love audio podcasts. I used to work in radio. Like I said, I love this kind of stuff. So we're doing this for fun. Hope you have fun along with us.
A wonderful day. Oh,
I didn't write an outro.
You and I went a different direction.
You want people to have a wonderful day. That's good. That's very nice of you.
Well, I mean, you could be creepy, and instead of hoping them have like a nice day, say have a safe 24 hours.
Have a safe 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because the next day is going to be shit.
But I mean, come on. If you're going to tell a person, hey, see you tomorrow, that sounds more accepting than if you're like, hey, I hope you have a safe 24 hours. Because you're like, do you know something that they don't?
What are you going to do in 24 hours?
Yeah.
You fucking creeper.
So, yep.
All right. I have to rewrite an outro. I used to have an actual outro, but we will catch you next week. For real. We're committing to at least a couple episodes until one of us has a change of life thing, which I'm hoping we're going to go for a while. I think we will.
Got this. It'll be fine.
I'm confident now that we've got it down to multiple recording windows and backups.
We got it down to a science. We
got an actual science.
I got my tangents down to a science.
All right. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.
How'd you get that armor?
Oh, they make some pretty convincing replicas these days, if you're willing to pay. Getting the whole getup was pretty expensive, but my wife was really supportive. She even paid for my shuttle fare off-world.